house, and if any Indian tries to stop me, I'll blast him.
You know, the only thing more pathetic than Indians on TV is Indians watching Indians on TV.
Hey everybody, it's Ian. Back again for another episode of Native Film Talk, and I have a guest today. Just wanted to give a quick introduction for Chris. He is my best friend. He was my best man at my wedding, and just a friend I've had since my early childhood. And we kind of talk a little bit how, just, you know, typical Res Boys, we became friends because of fighting. We had plenty of fights in, third, fourth, fifth grade, and we just, you know, after enough times I broke his glasses, we were just started hanging out. And so we had a great chat. Correction, I said Predator 1984 right when the thing starts. I meant 1987. I don't know why I said 4, but I don't want to, try to go back and fumble around with just one correction. I had a great chat with Chris, and I hope y'all enjoy. Talk to you later. Ooh is right. I got my first. Well, you're not my first guest. I don't know why I said that. Just trying to make you feel special, buddy. So first person I already know, I should say, as a guest. So I decided to bring my buddy on, Chris. He was my best man at my wedding. We've been friends since like the 4th grade, maybe the 3rd grade. And
breaking glasses since the 4th grade.
Yeah, but we used to break each other. I used to break his glasses. We used to fight in class. That's how we crafted our friendship. We used to wrestle in class, and I kept breaking his glasses
during lectures.
Yeah, during lectures. I don't know what we're thinking. Just a couple of Res Boys up to no good. But then we got sent to the principal's office a few times because we had a scuffle in the lunch line. And then we just crafted a friendship, and at some point we just became best friends. And here we are, years later. He's my first friend that's a guest on the show. So thanks for coming on, man. I really wanted to do this because it is called Native Film Talk, and if you look at my thumbnail on the podcast link or on podcast thumbnail, it says natives talking about natives in film. And up to this point, the only native has been me. So I really needed to add some diversity to this and just bring someone on. And I felt no better occasion than to talk about 1984 Predator. Because, I mean, that's a movie that me and you, we just grew up on. Predator, all the Rocky movies, Bloodsport. You talk about any of those movies, and that's like our childhood. So I was like, who knows? I can just talk to, Chris about it. I think it'd be fun, spice it up a little, add a little bit of levity at times, and just, we'll go from there. Have anything you want to add?
No, all sounds good.
All sounds good, he says. All right.
Yeah, I'm looking at all my mic settings, just making sure it's all good on
okay.
my side.
You're good, man. You sound great over here, so I'm sure it's fine. I will say, all I kept telling myself is up to this point, it's just like, Ian, don't fuck this up, because people love this movie. So I can't mess this up too bad. I will say there's a lot of problems. If there's a lot of problems with representation, we'll try to point them out. But also, this is it's Predator. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think it's a pretty awesome movie.
We ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, we ain't got time to bleed, exactly. So I'll go over kind of the beginning of the just some highlights, some stuff that I found in the researching of the film. We'll go over the plot, and then positives, negatives, and then final thoughts to take us home. So this is directed by John McTiernan. It's written by Jim and John Thomas. This is actually their first script they ever got greenlit for a movie. So your first script that got going is Predator. So it's pretty crazy. They were raised on like the Brothers Grimm, Beowulf, and like they were always fascinated by that Minotaur, Cyclops stuff. So they had such a deep fascination with like mythical characters that represented darkness, which led them to writing The Predator, the film. And they always thought initially that this would be like a big game hunter in Africa kind of story, where you mimic your prey, like you're calling in an animal. So that's like where the predator, why he mimics their sounds and baits their prey by like luring them into wilderness. Like he does that with Mac. Actually, he does that with Dylan. He imitates Mac's voice toward the end, right before Carl Weathers meets his demise. And you can see elements of that throughout it where, I mean, it's called the Predator, but really like takes a lot of the things that big game hunters in Africa do. And I thought that was pretty cool. This movie takes place in Central America. It was shot in Puerto Vallarta. And thanks to Chris, I had the Blu-ray to watch all this stuff. And on that Blu-ray, I learned a lot because I saw If It Bleeds, We Can Kill It, the making of Predator. Did you get it? Did you watch that at all? Have you seen it?
I think I just looked it up on like YouTube and stuff. Just
Nice.
watched a snippet of it.
I think what was crazy is it discusses like, I mean, it was just a lot of man like on that stage. It was just like a lot of testosterone and yeah, I mean, you have Jesse Ventura, Carl Weathers, Sonny Landham, and these guys are all bodybuilders, ex Navy SEALs, pro football players. So these guys there's a lot of testosterone there. I thought that they really delved into the grueling aspects of making a film. And yeah, it was freaking awesome. I'll go and tell one story I thought was real interesting is Jesse Ventura went and bragged about this in an interview. He was like, my arms were 1 inch bigger than Arnold's. And they found that out during the costume measurement. They were measuring them for all their camo costume. And Arnold apparently set him aside beforehand and said, when you measure Jesse Ventura's arms, I want you to tell him that his arms are 1 inch bigger than mine and that you already measured me, just so he can like have that walking around. And so they did that. And then 4 months later, when they were in the weight room, Arnold knew that, had that like back pocket information and was like, hey, Jesse, let's see whose arms are bigger. And, we'll bet a bottle of champagne on it. And of course, when they measured, Arnold's were 3 inches bigger than his. So just like knocked him down a peg and made him buy like a real expensive bottle of champagne. But like just those simple games like that, like waking up try to be the first person to the gym. I thought that was really interesting. If you haven't had a chance to go watch that, If It Bleeds, We Can Kill It. Go check that out. So let's go over the cast review. The Arnold Schwarzenegger as Major Alan Dutch Schaefer. I mean, Chris, does this guy need an introduction?
No, not at all.
So what's your favorite Arnold movies off the top of your head?
It'd have to be like number one to be True Lies. That's always going to be my number one. Terminator 2.
Nice.
Best action hero. Original Terminator. Conan. I mean, I don't think there's a Jingle All the Way. I don't think there's a movie of Arnold's that I don't.
Total Recall. Yeah. The list keeps going.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. You know what's crazy is there's a movie associated with Arnold that we love that has natives in it. I don't know why I never thought of Sonny Landham as native, but as soon as I saw it, we got to freaking do this movie. Mr. Freeze. The list goes on. And then it gets even better because second build is Carl Weathers as Dylan. You son of a bitch, because he is in Apollo Creed. He's Apollo Creed in Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4. Action Jackson. He's Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. He's always losing his damn arm. This was the first when I saw this. I hadn't seen this in years. When he gets his arms blown off, I'm like, Chubbs, it's always keep your damn hand on. But most recently, he made a resurgence in Mandalorian as Grief Karga. So I thought, it's pretty cool. He's still out there and getting acting work. I didn't know he was a former Raider. He was a San Diego State University. He was an Aztec football player, really star, and then turned football player in the NFL. So pretty cool. And then Elpidia Carrillo as Anna, Bill Duke as Mac. I know Mac mostly from Commando. You've seen Commando, right, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like he was Cook in Commando. They have that fight in the hotel. He's like, you scared, motherfucker? Well, you should be, because this Green Beret is going to kick your big ass. And then John Matrix, I eat Green Berets for breakfast, and I'm hungry right now. I'm very hungry. And they have their throwdown. That's great. And then we got Richard Chavez as Poncho. And then Jesse Ventura as Blaine. He's a former Navy SEAL. Something interesting in that documentary I mentioned before, he had some serious flashbacks during this movie. He said that this was the only time in his life he had flashbacks from Vietnam. He is a Vietnam veteran. Apparently he was like waking up in cold sweats and screaming in the hotel room in Puerto Vallarta and like freaking out his wife. And he was just like, yeah, this is the only time in his life he ever had that. His other famous role I know him in is Captain Freedom in The Running Man. I freaking love that movie. Another great Arnold movie we forgot to mention. So, and then we get to the man of the hour, Sonny Landham. R.I.P. Sonny Landham. We lost him, unfortunately, in 2017. He died of congenital heart failure. He's the tracker and the scout. So this is according to online, but he is an 8th Seminole and half Cherokee. And he's from Georgia, from Canton, Georgia. Served 3 years in the Army. Played college football at University of Georgia for a bit. He was a massive dude. He was 6'3". He's a big Indian. He started out his career in porn, actually. Guy's got to get some work. I mean, he started out in porn and in Playgirl. A lot, apparently back in that day, in the 70s, early 80s, a lot of dudes had to get their start out that way. Sylvester Stallone actually did that. He did porn for a little bit before he got his big break. So Billy Landham, he's most famous for his roles in this movie and as Billy, another Billy in 48 Hours. So when the screenwriters, when the Thomas brothers wrote this, they were just like, they wanted a native tracker, quote unquote, someone to guide him through the group and that knows the land really well. So the screenplay was supposed to be a quote unquote American Indian, proud and stoic, a Kit Carson scout from Vietnam. That's exactly what they wrote. So they purposely made him a stoic Indian, and that's like the first hello, I'm a stereotype trope that they put in there. So, what were your initial thoughts of Sonny Landham? Do you remember him from any other movies?
Just no, like even I just know him from Predator, and I think he's just the stereotypical native. You know, he's the tracker in the movie. He's got the hair, he's got the stoic, just what would you call it, the 1,000-yard stare. I think the script made him to be, like I said, American Indian, proud, stoic. And I was reading somewhere that he was originally supposed to be the main character. They wanted him because of him being Native American. He was actually supposed to be like the front man, and was supposed to do like the Predator was supposed to be able to adapt to his surroundings and be able to. They wanted that showdown to be one-on-one. Because Shane Black, who's also what's his character's name in this movie? Shane Black, the guy with all the jokes.
Hawkins.
Yeah. So Hawkins is Shane Black. He's the guy who wrote and who directed Lethal Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the one who did Iron Man 3, and he has like a Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3. So like those are all his movies. And he was originally supposed to come on and redo the script, but he didn't want to. So they casted him as a character in the movie.
Look at that. Already, I didn't know any of that. That's great. I'm with you. You know, I mean, we're kind of going backwards on this one, but it's okay. Like my biggest negative with this movie is I can't not like it. Despite everything you said, you're like, homie's got war paint. Homie's the stoic Indian. He's just an American Indian. He has an ambiguous like medicine pouch for whatever the hell reason. He's an expert tracker. He's like connected to the land, even though he's supposed to be American Indian from America. He knows how to like do shit in Central America, which makes no sense, but it's Predator, you know?
There's a weird, I was looking up like the actual characters, kind of like Wikipedia. I was looking up like his character reference and the character's narrative, and there's so many, like, I don't know if it was on purpose, but there's like so many things because Sylvester Stallone was a big action star then, at about the same time, both making big movies, but they compared Sonny to Rambo. He's got the half native descent,
I can definitely
half
see
Italian descent.
Mm-hmm.
Bandana, long hair, military. Like it was almost like kind of a knockoff Rambo.
So Sonny Landham, Sylvester Stallone. Who do you think wins in a fight?
It's fucking tough. It's I'm gonna have to go with fucking my Navajo brother in Rambo, just because I have to. But
just because he was Rocky. I get it.
Just because he was half Navajo.
So I think I bring that up, one, because it's fun to talk about, but two, Sonny Landham in real life had a mean streak. I would go with Sonny Landham just because on the movie set, Joel Silver, the producer, was required to hire a bodyguard for Sonny, and they had to hire a bodyguard that was 6'8", about 400 pounds, and the requirement was that the bodyguard was to protect everyone else from Sonny. So Al DeSario, he's the visual effects artist, during the film commentary, he said, and I quote, "You get real close to Sonny, you can hear the fuse." Joel Silver hired a bodyguard for Sonny to make sure he was there in the morning, to make sure he didn't do whatever he was doing from off time to on time. One night, Sonny almost threw him off the balcony of his room. The bodyguard had almost weighed 400 pounds. He was huge, and Sonny scared him. He came down and quit. And Joel Silver worked with Sonny Landham on The Warriors. He was one of the police officers, and he got a bat thrown at him on the subway. He was one of the police officers that got a bat thrown him in the subway scene. And he liked him so much that he cast him for this role. So he also ran for governor. One quick fact about Sonny before we move on. He ran for governor. So he is the third person on this starring cast that ran for governor. You know, something was in the water in Puerto Vallarta at the time, because they all decided to run for office. Jesse Ventura in Minnesota and Arnold in California. And yeah. And then last but not least is Kevin Peter Hall as Predator, and he was a helicopter pilot at the end. He played Predator. He was the Predator costume. Homie was 7'3". Rest in peace, Kevin Peter Hall. He was the Predator in 1 and 2. He was also Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons. He's studied ballet. He was a really agile dude and athletic on his feet. He killed it. He didn't look. He made it convincing. You know, like he didn't move like a 7. When I think of people over 7'3" or 7 feet, I think of people moving they lumber. You know, they're not very agile. This guy was really loud on his feet. What did you think of?
He moved great. I mean, I think if Yao Ming could move as graceful as him, I think he would have been a 7'3" like Jordan.
I agree. He should have been a much better. Yeah, he should have been more agile on his feet. He was less George Mirasan, more Kevin Durant. He would have had a much better career. He's still Hall of Famer though. Unfortunately, he passed away. Kevin Peter Hall passed away at 35 in 1991. So, but he left a lasting impression because he was freaking Predator. And then Peter Cullen, who is also Optimus Prime, was the voice of Predator, at least the sound effects. Just go YouTube that, Peter Cullen, Predator, and it's amazing to see him do the noises he can make. It's crazy. So let's go over the plot real quick, and we'll go from there. So the movie opens with the alien aircraft flying by Earth, and Chris, interrupt me at any time. It does a flyby the Earth, and a pod's released, launching toward the planet. Then we see Arnold and company arrive in their helicopter, and of course, he's got cigars. So he's lighting a cigar before they get off the chopper, because why not? I don't know about you. The first time I ever smoked a cigar, I had two things in mind. One was Arnold, and the other was Will Smith in Independence Day. When they're sitting on the ship and they think they're about to die. Like those two scenes just made cigars look badass, man. I don't know about
Schwarzenegger always just makes cigars look fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, sitting at home.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's always got a fucking cigar in his mouth.
Even with his horrible accent, when he calls them stogies, like I'm just like, oh yeah, give me a stogie. I would never say stogie, but when I hear him, just like pass me a stogie, bro. And then so when they get there, they land, they see General Phillips, the general starts giving them the rundown of the mission. They got to go recover a downed helicopter, basically. And then everything's not adding up. Dutch is like, this seems like just a regular kind of mission. Why don't you use the regular army? What do you need us for? And then we hear freaking Dylan, Carl Weathers, off in the distance. Because some damn fool accused you of being the best. And then Dutch turns around and just with his chiseled jaw like glares across the room. And the famous Dylan, you son of a bitch. And Chris, I don't know how many times in high school, like we'd see each other like with our boys like down the hallway, so and so, Jarek, Chris, you son of a bitch. It's just, oh man, there's just so many great memories with that scene. I don't understand why is that so much fun to do?
And it's two gods and a thunderous clap. I mean, that's all it comes down to.
I want to get that like an oil painting of those two arms just like sitting in my living room. That would be great. But what I thought was weird, though, I mean, it's just an excuse to show off their biceps. I've never done that, like arm wrestled in midair. I don't know what that was all about. The director was probably like, "Let me just show some man sweat." Maybe they were doing that off camera. They just thought it was cool. But anyway, so there's Dylan's CIA, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And yeah, basically, there's like, they used to work together. Now Dylan works for the CIA. Dutch is explaining to Dylan, like, hey, we're not assassins. We just can't go finding gorillas in the jungle. We got to go for a rescue mission. And simple one-day op. He's like, doesn't matter. We just got to go find the chopper, grab the hostages, come back. And then once they obtain the hostages, Dylan's going to take over, and then they're going to go out. So then next they're flying out in the helicopters to the drop zone. They're all putting on face paint. And this is the first time we see Billy. Well, it's not really the first time. It's the second time we see Billy. But this is the first time Billy puts on his quote-unquote war paint. Everyone, like, puts on their camouflage on their face. The costume department said that because they were giving everyone the same camouflage costume, this is where they were going to give everyone identity in the different ways that they're applying the war paint. I'm sorry, the face black to their faces. And Arnold, they gave him specifically those dark, broad lines on his face. And Hawkins, they just gave him like some crappy face paint. But then when they said Sonny Landham, when they got to Sonny Landham, they specifically like wanted to give him war paint, the war paint look, quote unquote. So on the flight, Hawkins tries to make Billy laugh with a real shitty joke. I don't remember the joke exactly. I didn't write it down. But yeah, it's a shitty joke. And why that's important is he later tells that another joke that floors him, and then I'll get to that later. But yeah, in there they're just like flexing, all sweaty. It's great. They land. Well, and then so at this point too, this is where there's like, I don't really know a whole lot about like everything that got the like toxic masculinity is a newer term to me. But this whole movie, what little I know about toxic masculinity, this whole movie is just like toxic masculinity, homophobia, native stereotypes. But God damn it, it's part of our childhood. It's so hard to hate, you know. So I'm gonna pass you a piece of chewing tobacco and say it'll make you a sexual tyrannosaurus like me. Let's see. And then so then they get to the helicopter, and then they realize, hey, the helicopter, this wasn't just brought down by anything. This is like a heat-seeking missile. You know, I thought these were some, you know, gorillas on a budget kind of thing. Like this is a big deal. And this isn't just a army taxi. This is a surveillance helicopter. You guys are doing surveillance out here? And then Billy said, like, hey, there's like 12 gorillas. Looks like they took 2 men from the helicopter. We got to go find some bodies. They're not all adding up. And then so this is the first time we see Billy be the expert tracker. You know, just like all natives do. He goes ahead and he finds some stuff. And so this is really weird. He grabs a vine and he cuts into the vine, and some like water comes out. And I particularly hated this. Like watching it again, I'm like, okay, let's take you, Chris. a Navajo from the Southwest, or an American Indian, and let's say you were in Vietnam, and then we throw you down to South America, how the hell would you know? It's your first time going to Puerto Vallarta, seemingly, and you're just like gonna know to cut into a vine and start like drinking water from a vine. Like, I don't know. There are no jungles in America. How does he know how to do that? I just I thought that was an odd thing. What did you think of that? Am I reading too much into that, or do you think?
I mean, yeah, I'd have to agree. I wouldn't. There's still plants around here. Like, I don't even know if I can fucking eat or not.
I agree. Yeah, if someone told me, like, Ian, can we eat any of this? I'm just like, man, you got to go to the grocery store. I don't know.
Those cherries that are at the primary school, like, I didn't know if we could eat them, but I know we threw them at each other all the time. And those purple trees with the purple leaves, and they have those like cherries, and they had all those bushes around. Like, fuck, should we eat this, or can we sit in there like looking if we should all eat it? Like,
yeah, no kidding. I don't. I that's something we don't know. It's not as abundant as it was in the past, where we knew our flora and fauna. We knew what was edible and wasn't. But Billy apparently is sent from the creator. He knows exactly everything on this planet that's edible. And this is where we get the first taste that we're dealing with something that not human in the movie, because Billy climbs up a tree. He finds that all these dudes are like skinned. They're just hanging upside down. And they're just like, what the hell's going on? They look at the ground and they're like, okay, so where did they come from? Where did they go? And Billy's just like, there's no tracks coming in and out. I don't know what's going on. They're like, the hell, he just disappeared? And then they decide to move on. They're like, all right, there's a village nearby. Let's break out Old Painless, the massive machine gun. What did you think of this machine gun as a kid, Chris?
What's that?
What did you think of the machine gun, Old Painless?
Oh, geez, man. Well, when you see it, like one of them rolls down the hill with that minigun on his back, it's like, I don't know if he can be that stealthy, and those things are heavy. But it's cool as fuck, though.
You probably sound like Iron Man walking through a forest holding that thing. You're carrying so much weight. It's crazy, but it's awesome. Looks cool. And in the making of documentary, I learned that this thing is not feasible. Even Jesse Ventura, he's like, this thing is 70, 80, 90 pounds. This thing's massive. You could never just walk around the woods, the forest, and carry the jungle. But
and I did read that the minigun that they used was, of course, was pulled off the helicopter. Jesse Ventura was the first actor to ever wield it and shoot it ever, like just holding, just like through the movie. Like, but he's the first one to ever like hold it like that and wield it and shoot it just the way he was. And then you see it again, and Arnold does it in Terminator 2.
Ever in a movie?
Yeah, ever in a movie.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a great fun fact. I thought it was so freaking cool. Something like 1,000 rounds a minute. Things just like insane. It's an insane gun, and it has like no aiming. It's just a cool factor. 1,000.
The 200 rounds that Max said that they shot.
Yeah. So as they're breakout Old Painless, they eventually get across a guerrilla camp. They have reason to believe that these guys have something to do with it. So then they go in, shit goes down. It's an amazing action sequence, just a bunch of explosions, gunfire. Arnold has this, and this is where I don't know when the era of the one-liners started and stopped, but this was like right in the prime of the one-liners. There's one scene in this battle where Arnold has this machete that probably has no business. It's not a throwing knife. It has no business being a throwing knife, but it's Arnold, so it's a throwing knife. And he sees a guy behind him standing right next to a pillar, takes this damn machete, throws it through the guy's chest, pins him to the wall, and drops a "stick around." And he just walks off. And then there's another one. He kicks a bamboo door open, and he just goes knock, knock, and then just mows him down. Hip firing through this entire scene. Nobody believes in looking down the sights. It's just like heat-seeking bullets. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's like one of the great things about this movie is just the one-liners. I mean, like I said, it was at the prime time when like one-liners were at like we're at the top. We're just killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like part of the nostalgia about it. It's just like growing up, like listening to these one-liners and then like repeating them to your friends at school. And I mean, dude, our friendships, like me, you know, Tyler, everyone, our circle of friends, like we grew up just saying these one-liners to each other for every little thing.
For sure.
Every little thing.
For sure. Yeah. Especially the next scene as they eventually, after they clear the entire village and all that's left is Anna, the hostage. Blaine and Poncho run after some remaining soldiers, and Blaine and Poncho, he's just like, man, Blaine says, yeah, so they're at the bottom of the hill, they're looking up at them like, how the hell are we gonna get up there? And Blaine says, son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick. And then Poncho tells him, you're hit, you're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed. Once again, man, but one-liners. And Blaine, man, throughout this entire movie, Jesse Ventura is chomping on like a mandarin orange size of tobacco, like the entire movie. I don't know. I wonder how many like children have gotten like stomach aches from like sneaking a big hunk of red man, thinking that's how you're supposed to chew it, or even full-grown adults, you know, trying to be too big for their britches and just put like too big of a piece of tobacco and just get the spins. It's freaking awesome. So they clear it all out. At this point, Dutch is like wise to Dylan. He's just like, what the hell's going on? You know, he's just like, why us? You know, this isn't some rescue mission. We're doing some dirty work for the CIA. And Dylan tells him, he's like, because nobody else could have pulled it off. And so then we also learned that they prevented some big invasion. You know, the original group that came in on the chopper, on the surveillance helicopter, was trying to find this camp that they just blew up. And and it really seemed like a no-win situation because of how dangerous it was. But you got Arnold and company, so of course they take care of it easily. And Dutch tells him, so you cooked up a story and dropped the 6 of us in a meat grinder. I don't know why. I just love that line. It's a great one. And yeah, and then they got to get the hell out. So at this point, they're like, okay, so we got this hostage Anna where we did what we were supposed to do. And now we just got to get the hell out. And then so Dutch then goes to Billy, expert tracker. And he's like, all right, check out the map, Billy. And Billy says, the only way out of here is that valley that leads to the east. I wouldn't waste that on a broke dick dog. And I'm just like, what the hell does that mean? But, you know, apparently that was totally added in. That wasn't in the script. So I don't know if that was Billy Landham being funny or whatever, but just stoic ass face delivery. But before they head out, before they head out, Hawkins tells him the other joke. And this time it lands. And it's another joke about going down on his girlfriend. And the punchline is, you know, because of the echo. And then Billy lets out his booming laugh. And this whole time, the Predator is watching. And that's the first time, well, at least one of the extended times we see him switch between the regular camera and heat vision to show how he sees. And he's recording and watching this. And this is the laugh that the Predator uses at the end of the movie. And that's pretty freaking cool, man. I mean, at the end of the movie, when he just, it's so cool that like that laugh is from Billy. So as Billy walks away, he can feel something because he feels it. He's native, you know. I don't know where that came from. I don't know when that started becoming a thing of like people saying that native can just quote unquote feel things, you know. I don't know. What did you think of that? Like as a kid and now, is that just like a badass thing, or is it like, do you have a problem with that at all?
I have a problem with what? Sorry, the Zoom kind of like skipped for a little bit.
No, it's okay. Just like that whole like, I can feel it in the wind. Like after that, Billy's like, I can feel something's off, you know, because up to this point, Billy's like the canary in the coal mine. He's the only one that can tell that something is watching, you know, something non-human.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think they really kind of covered a lot of the stereotypes for natives, and Billy having this sixth sense of how he's connected with everything around him. And even kind of reading about, you know, the Wikipedia about, you know, Billy's character, and that's kind of what they go over about his supernatural ability to kind of feel that he can feel like what's going on around him, and like it's very, very native-esque for the most part.
Yeah.
I still want to know what's in his Tutadine bundle. That's right.
I know. So we're getting to that right now. So after that, they move out, they push on, they get to a point where they get to this clearing, and everyone's kind of like, what the hell's going on with Billy? Like something's wrong with Billy. Like Billy is leading the pack because he's the tracker. He's kind of like the scout. He goes ahead because he was a Kit Carson scout, and walks ahead, and he stops, and he's just standing there. And the camera pans to something he has around his neck. It's a little leather pouch, and I never noticed this as all the times I've seen this movie. It really stuck out to me this time for some reason. And he's just like staring into the jungle abyss. He's just standing completely still in a trance. And in the script, it says that this is his quote unquote talisman, medicine bag. So it's what he uses, also what he uses to wrap around his hand before the final stand, because he's American Indian. You have no idea what the significance is. It's never explained. But like you said, I thought it was Tutadine, corn pollen. That's the first thing I thought of. Because that's what we do, Navajos. We just put it, was it tobacco? Was it sage? Was it, I don't know what other natives would put in a medicine bag? Maybe a rock of some kind that has significance. Maybe some sand from home. I don't know what would be in that. What
yeah, I mean, I thought it might have been Tutadine just because, like, I think everyone that I know that does have Tutadine always comes in that little small, like, carrier pouch that you can put in your, like, pocket. Like, I've always seen it like that. I mean, everyone has, like, a bigger stash, but I've always seen it in, like, that little pouch.
Probably some corn pollen.
It feels like it is.
I just want like to insert like Cardi B's. What was the reason? Tell me.
I wonder. I mean, if you actually look at it, it looks like it's been used for. I mean, it doesn't look like they just made it. It looks like it's been actually used. So I don't know if it's actually
interesting. Really?
Yeah, because like
I need to look at that again.
Yeah, like I just like looking at it. It does look like it's worn. It doesn't look like it's like, I mean, props could have made it look worn down. It's a very huge possibility, but it definitely looks like there's some age to it.
Interesting. But I think had a non-native like prop person made it, I don't know if they would have known that you're supposed to like take stuff out. I don't know if you're supposed to use it in like a refillable sense. So I wonder, that's interesting. I wonder if we could, everyone probably is gone or doing something else, but I think that'd be interesting to find out if like they actually got it from a native person, or like maybe someone from Mexico where it was shot. Maybe they have some kind of medicine bag thing and they just use that. That's an interesting observation. So then Arnold Dutch goes to Billy and he's just like, Billy, what the hell's going on? And Billy, he says to him, what is it, Billy? What the hell's wrong with you? And then Billy, there's something in those trees. And the predator is right above the whole time. Billy can feel him while everyone else has no idea. And eventually Billy's like, no, it's nothing, man. Let's just, we're good. And then Anna makes a break for it. Why this is important is because this is the first predator death we see. Hawkins, Mr. Jokester over there, chases after Anna, and he gets killed by predator. And then they finally catch up, and they're just, all they see is guts. They're like, what the hell's going on? So then they keep pushing into the jungle further and further. And the next death is Blaine, Jesse Ventura. Mac sees his invisibility cloak. He's the first person that actually like sees him, the silhouette kind of thing of his invisibility cloak, and yells for everyone to fire. And at this point, Chris, there is an unholy amount of ammunition that's like unloaded into the jungle. I mean, the budget on this one is like, how many thousands of dollars? It's got to be insane. Of course, they seemingly hit nothing and they move on. And I would like your opinion on this one, Chris, because apparently in this one they hit the predator in the leg with one round. I don't know which one, if it was from Painless or from somebody's gun, but he has like a bullet wound seemingly, or it has a bullet wound, and there's like a fluorescent green droplet of blood that only Anna sees. And the predator repairs itself and lets out this huge scream in pain. It's up in the trees, obviously, so no one can see it. And they just hear this large, like, paranormal scream off in the distance. And everyone's like, holy shit, that does not sound like anything I've ever heard. seeing this now, I'm just like, man up, Predator. Like, what the heck? Like, this massive like Predator war, you have all these sophisticated tools, and you gotta like resort to just, I don't know, letting out a primal yell. I don't know. For some reason that didn't sit well with me. I would have thought they would have had some kind of high tech like suture device. You know what I mean? You're in healthcare,
Yeah.
an advanced alien race. Would you have thought there'd be a better way to repair it in the field?
I mean, you would think, but I mean, even like sophisticated equipment like cauterizing is like the best way to seal a wound, and I don't think you can make cauterize painless unless they develop some type of like local anesthesia that he could have put on it. But I mean, you would think that, but also at the same time, like I feel like the Predator is almost, they're like an advanced, but almost they're like advanced native species. Like when you look at it, I feel like the Predators are like advanced Native Americans when you look at their war garb and their ceremonies and their traditions and their rituals. I mean, yes, they're advanced to a certain extent, but they also have like a very deep kind of like cultural presence in the way they do things, their rituals, their ceremonies, the way they hunt, their warriors, they discipline. I mean, it's a very big thing for them. So I mean, as far as like, I mean, even when you look at like natives and our type of medicine, I mean, you got like pine sap to cover wounds and like very, very minimalist. I mean, we do have like little things that help with like anesthesia, but as far as like his medical grade equipment, I think like even for natives, it's either pine sap or you got to cauterize it.
You know, I think that's out of all the years I've loved Predator, I never made that connection between them being native. Like that's what technologically advanced natives who are culturally connected would look like. That's amazing. Hold on to that, and we'll definitely come back to that because that's fucking amazing. I'm so glad I got a guest. I would have never made that connection. That's amazing. So at this point, they're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And they hear that scream, and then they learn that Anna saw the blood. And this is where we hear the great scene because they're trying to like shake Anna. They're just like, "What the hell's going on? What the hell is going on?" You saw something, lady. And up to this point, they only think she speaks Spanish. And then she eventually says, like, the jungle took him. And they're like, I don't know what the hell that means. And then so eventually they hear like, hey, okay, cut her handcuffs off. She's a liability with her like that. So just make sure that no matter what we do, just cut her loose. She can come with us or not. But after they cut her loose, she like they earn her trust basically. And she's just like, okay, you know something, what is it? Actually, I'm mixing up my scenes. That's a little bit later. But after the Predator yells, this is where Billy gets freaking freaked out. I love that after the Predator yell, this is where Billy is like, holy crap. Poncho tells him, Billy, you know something. What is it? I'm scared, Poncho. Bullshit. You ain't afraid of no man. There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. And this is where I love it because this is where he just like mic drop. He just stands up, looks at everybody, and he says, we're all going to die. And he just walks off. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I love Billy's character in this scene because Billy, there's a little bit of stereotype in this of like being spiritually connected. He's the canary in the coal mine. But I love that Billy among badasses is the most badass out of everyone because Arnold's never scared until Billy's scared. Carl Weathers is never scared until Billy's scared. Jesse Ventura probably would have, maybe he's dead at this point, but like everyone freaks out because Billy's scared. I thought that was like, out of all the stereotypes, that's like at least a positive one of like we're revered as cool in that way. It's a positive stereotype in a way. What do you think of that?
I think it's all, like I said, with all the stereotypes in this movie, and like I completely like overlook it just because I love this movie so much. But like I take that little bit of positive just because it's like He like you said, he's the badass of the badasses. Everyone's scared, and when they find out he's scared, but he doesn't like put off that he's scared. It's like, again, very native-esque, where he's just very stoic about it, and he's just like, it's almost like when you watch a lot of like native movies and they know they're gonna die. There's no like fear. There's no like, wishing for more time, or I don't want to die. It's like they've accepted it because they have a job to do, and they still push through, and they keep like they just keep their cool. They keep that very stoic demeanor, and I've always seen that as a positive. I always thought that was very cool.
I agree. So nightfall hits, Predator comes in, takes Blaine's body in the night. And then the next day is when we find out that Predator can bleed because Anna tells him, like, okay, they cut her loose. And then they're like, we got to go 10 to 12 miles to get to the evac zone. She's going to slow us down with her hands tied. So, and then Anna like stops him. It's like, okay, wait. Now you've earned my trust. There's something else. When the big man was killed, Blaine, you must have wounded it. Its blood was on the leaves. And Dutch Arnold with the epic, if it bleeds, we can kill it. At this point, you're just like, let's fucking go. Let's go. Like, it's just like, you just want the movie to just, it just cranks it up a notch at that point. Once again, age of the one-liners. All right. So at this point of the movie, we are at basically like the Home Alone Kevin scene where they're all setting a bunch of traps. Just traps galore, thinking that they can lure the Predator in from the ground level. And so at this point in the movie, I'm kind of just going to push through until we get to the native stuff. So real quick, it doesn't go as planned. Predator sticks to the trees and tries to ambush Dutch, but does get caught in the net and then fires off a series of events that eventually ends up getting a log trap that goes awry, hits Poncho in the chest, and then everybody scatters. So then Mac and Dylan, they end up dying, and Billy, Poncho, and Anna and Dutch, they take off for the chopper. So then Dutch and Anna have to basically carry Poncho with Billy bringing up the rear. And then there's this, this is where we get to the scene where they're crossing this downed huge tree that is connecting the two pieces of land. And this is where Billy stops. Billy just like they're pushing on and Billy's bringing up the rear and he just stops. He throws off his backpack, takes off his gun, takes off his vest so he's bare chested, and Dutch is like, Billy, let's go. And he looks for a second, but then realizes like Billy wants to stay out, go out like a freaking OG. So he just leaves him to his warrior death, basically. And then Billy rips off his medicine pouch, the one we talked about early on, wraps it around his hand. With that same hand, he wraps his fingers around this giant machete and then cuts into his chest to draw some blood, basically saying like, come on at me, no technology, just me, you, mano a mano. And what's interesting about this scene, in the script, he was supposed to take out a small grease paint tin, and the war paint look wasn't supposed to be applied until now. He was supposed to cover his finger in black paint and then apply dark slashes under his eyes, and then taking another dab of paint and making a symbol on his bare chest over his heart. And then he's supposed to drop the tin and then draw the knife. And then holding the knife with the medicine bag around, he does that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm so glad they didn't do that, because that would have been too on the nose. Instead, they decided to just show him like looking off into the distance and meeting his death.
I like that. I'm just like, if you're gonna do a stereotype, just fucking go all out. Just
just really lean into it, huh?
Lean into it, man.
I think it's pretty cool though that Billy's death is the only one that's off camera. You know, you just hear a scream off in the abyss of the jungle, kind of like where he was staring the whole time.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. That was pretty cool.
I kind of like that's how they wanted it. How they like wrote it in the script originally, that they just wanted his death to be off screen. And I also just like that it's, I guess, the way he went. I mean, supposedly like there's rumors about how it's supposed to be like really, really gory scene, but I like the sense of just the mystery, because he's native. He's got this mysterious powers, mystic powers and everything. It just kind of keeps his It just kind of keeps that mystery about Billy.
I like this because he sets the tone for what's going to happen with Dutch and Predator later on. That it's going to be a no technology battle, and while Billy's death is off screen, it's exactly what you said. It has this like mysticism that's still like, what is this Predator really like? Like, we don't know his full capabilities. He kills seemingly like the canary in the coal mine, kills the person that can feel and detect where the Predator is. So at this point, you're like, man, these guys are screwed. And then this is the like famous, shortly after this is Dylan's famous run, go, get to the chopper. And it's great, because he gets shot. What was cool is it's like a testament to Arnold's badassery. He gets shot by the same shoulder round that Dutch gets shot with. I'm sorry, that Dylan gets shot with. And Dylan, Chubbs, loses his damn arm. But Dutch just like flesh wound, just a flesh wound on his shoulder.
But what I like is like with the Predator, he's like mano a mano. Like if you have a gun, he's gonna use his stuff.
Yeah.
With Billy, like you didn't hear no like whoosh, and then
yeah.
So you know that Predator and him probably fought hand to hand or blade to blade. And that's when like even like when you watch, once we get to it, I mean I'll go a little more into it, but the like because that's where that girl went to grab the weapon before he got hit by his plasma. And he's like, no, don't hit the weapon. He hits it down. He does that epic turn and shoot at the same time.
That's right.
And that's when he gets hit with the plasma.
Well, and that's why Poncho lives, basically, because he's wounded. There's no honor in taking a wounded animal. That's a great point. At this point, we kind of just are going to like coast through the rest of the film because Dutch hightails it out of there. He dives into a river, ends up getting covered in mud. That's where we learn like, oh, your mud's camouflaged because it's cold. It masks your body heat. And that's how Predator sees. And this is the last time we see Billy is Predator gets down to the kind of riverbank and he's looking for Dutch, and Dutch is covered in mud. And then he's just like, well, he must hightail it out of here. He's somewhere. I got something to do. He climbs back up into the trees and he has Billy's body up in the trees and freaking rips out Billy's spine. I don't know why I forgot about this scene, but man, when I watched that, I was just like, Jesus Christ. He just digs right into his back and pulls out his spine. And then we see what he does with the trophies. He almost like takes this, I don't know, like cryogenic kind of system that he has, this mobile system, and like freezes off everything. So it's just like a bare skull. It's almost like he cures a skull. And that's like the trophies that he keeps. So he's been keeping all of these trophies.
Yeah. And I like that Billy was used as a trophy because like even with all the other bodies, like you don't see if like Hawking's or all of them, like if their skulls got taken, like Billy was the only one that you could see that he fought like blade to blade. I don't know if Predator felt like that he was significant enough that, hey, look, he took me on one-on-one.
Well, I didn't make that connection. So I do hunt. I started later in life, but I do hunt, and I do know enough that big game hunters, like you shoot like an elk, like a cow. You're not going to mount that thing. It's a female elk. You're getting that thing for meat. But you get a big buck that you can be proud of, a big male elk. You're like, oh man, I'm mounting that thing on the side of my wall. It's that thing's going to be mounted for everyone to see. So that's interesting. I never made that connection because there are the people that get skinned earlier in the movie and they're just dangling there. He probably didn't take trophies from them. They weren't. Yeah. They wouldn't put up a fight. Like they
still had their skull, and I mean Hopper's body was still there. Hopper's body was hanging in the tree because I think they showed him.
Yep. Yeah, because he ripped off his dog. He ripped off his dog tags. That's how they found out it was Hopper.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Every single one of those. So at that point, really, the only people's skulls that he took were Mac, really Blaine, and up to that point, Billy. Like those were his only like his big game that he took up to this point. What I thought was interesting, and I'm glad they changed it, and really it was because of budget. They were supposed to have this like in the spaceship, almost like stuffed human room where he was going to display his trophies like that in the ship, where it'd be like these I don't know, almost embalmed looking humans that were just like on display in these like glass cases, but they just like ran out of budget. And so they decided to just use the skulls as a method to do that. And I'm so glad they did it this way. This is much better. That would have been too, I don't know. Seeing it and knowing what I know now, that would have been too much.
Yeah. And then knowing that the predators like go to different planets and stuff and just see a human and then all these like complex creatures, like really like humans, humans, a trophy, a stuff.
Yeah, no, I hadn't made that connection. You're absolutely right. I think, yeah, they did that completely right. And then at this point, Arnold just prepares for the final battle. He's trying to set all these traps for the predator to lure into, covers himself in mud, lures him in, and it's like a night battle at night. And then eventually Dutch wins by dropping like a deadfall log, lands on him. And then the predator uses his self-destruct timer. That's when we learn like he has this display on his left forearm, and he like flips it open, enters in these code, and then we hear the last of Billy, like Billy's laugh, because he just hit self-destruct, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have the last laugh, motherfucker," kind of thing, and you just hear, and then Dutch is like running away with this like ominous laugh, freaking just playing. And this like massive explosion happens, and then Anna Poncho, they eventually are like double back to go see like maybe he made it, and sure enough, Dutch survived. That's the end of the movie.
Great movie.
Great freaking movie, man.
Just watched all in my head again.
Oh gosh, so the laugh, I never made the connection until I saw it again that was Billy's laugh. I think I just saw this movie in so many like pieces as a kid. That it's like very few times that I actually watched it start to finish, because it was just always on, whether, your uncle's watching it or your dad's watching it, you just watch with him, you come and pick up, when Dutch, I don't know, you just randomly see it. So I never made that connection. I thought that was cool that like a native, like that's based on the native character's laugh. The positives. So let's go over the positives. Billy was a badass among badasses. I think that, stereotypes aside, a native character was in a movie with Jesse the Body Ventura, Apollo fucking Creed, the Governor, and at no point in the movie did you feel like, hey, this guy's out of place. What's this Indian guy doing here? Like that was a win for Indian country in that sense. I'm sure we rode a little bit of a wave off of that in 1987, rocking some bandanas, I don't know. What did you think of that?
Dude, I mean, like I said, you're like in the Hall of Greats. I mean, it was like the Expendables in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It's
100%.
It's you got your big shots and they're big guys. These guys that are action heroes, and to see, like I said, I've never seen any other movie with Sonny, and to see this random actual native playing a native in a big blockbuster film like this, along like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, and he wasn't just like some little part. Like he played a very influential part alongside Dutch. I mean, he probably had a bigger part than Carl Weathers, just by his presence alone. I mean, his presence almost, when you like watch him and you compare Dutch character, I mean, it's very hard to displace Arnold Schwarzenegger in any movie, but like, to have Sonny there, this basically like a no-name actor, almost kind of resonate as much as Arnold, because he's the stoic native, his stereotypical native. But
you take away Jesse Ventura's "I ain't got time to bleed." Like there really is no better character than Billy, other than Arnold. He's got like a great one-liner of like, there's something out there and it ain't no man. Like people can really quote Billy, and like, he's pretty cool, I like it. He was essential. I think that was the big thing, is without him, you said it right. Dylan's an expendable character. Billy though, like they had to kill him at that point in the movie, because without him dying in that, like, just before the final act of the film, there is no, like it had to go that way. Because if he died earlier in the movie, there's no way for them to know when Predator's around. He's their technology. He's their Doppler radar. He's their radar. Yeah,
and I mean, the way I've always seen it, it's a native versus a native. And like I said, I always compared Predator as being a advanced another species of a Native American.
Never made that connection, but I love that you bring that up because it's like, what do you think of that? I think it's interesting because they only take like the cool parts of being Native, as opposed to like making a whole race like the Na'vi and Avatar, where like you're taking too many liberties with indigenous representation.
Mm-hmm.
But even with Predator, I never made that connection. But now that I completely see it now, with the dreadlocks, with exactly what you said, like it's a lot of rituals and it's a lot of like ceremony, and it is very primal. Like I've never made that connection.
Yeah, I mean, other than like his helmet that has like the different types of vision, the heat vision, and however
his shoulder
whatever
cannon.
the spectrums
Outside
that
of
they
those,
use,
yeah, you're absolutely
and
right.
his wrist nuclear bomb device.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you look at his main tools. I mean, other than his plasma launcher, I mean, he's got a big ass fucking blade, and for the most part, it's just his optic camouflage. I mean, it's like it feels very, very Native. He's got guerrilla warfare in him. It's how he hunts. Which, by the way, Predator's original title was called The Hunter.
Ah, I like it.
Yeah.
Predator's much better.
Yeah, which they eventually said like Predator just has that little extra oomph to it.
It definitely does. Last positive before we move on, it's just like Sonny Landham is famous for his unique laugh, and Predator mimics that. I just think that's fucking cool. That had they not cast Sonny Landham, we probably wouldn't have gotten that laugh. So that's like the thing I take away the most from the movie is that last iconic, when he's just, we wouldn't have that had it not be for Sonny Landham. Negatives, like I said at the beginning, I hate that I shouldn't like this movie, like he's got long hair, just like Rambo. He's got a bandana. He's got an ambiguous medicine bag for whatever reason. He's an American Indian. There's no native nation associated with him. It's just like, he's an Indian and that's good enough. He's knowledgeable about Central America land for no reason. He's not from there. He's a stoic Indian. It's a good day to die trope is like romantic. His death is romanticized like a warrior. He's got war paint. He's a tracker. He's got like all of this stuff like wrapped around his character. But damn it, I hate that I love this because it's like it's our childhood, It's we saw this as kids and we did that every time it rained, in Tuba City and just floods everywhere. You go play in the mud, you go find a long stick that looks like a machete and you do that same thing that Billy did, You rub something, take your shirts off, you just like put some mud across your chest, or you try to do the cocoa claws, from Pocahontas. Yeah, we still do that. But it's just stupid. Like, I don't know what that is of like the representation part when it's like even we pick and choose, it's like with mascots. It's like, it's cool. Like stuff like the Redskins and the Cleveland Indians, you can see that, you can call it for what it is. You're just like, that's not appropriate. That's not cool, because there's like negative caricatures. But then you like our high schools, Tuba City Warriors, you're like, oh, there's a lot of pride in that school. It's so interesting. Like, and I think this movie has that where some stereotypes just are cool, unfortunately. And this is one of them. It's like Sonny Landham, all the stereotypes that they use, war paint in a maybe drama film, you'd be like, that's terrible. But then you see war paint on Sonny Landham and you're fighting a predator, you're like, man, this is badass. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very sad that he didn't get to do a lot more movies.
For sure.
Especially after rewatching this movie and like watching it, he did very well. Even like his acting, he really played the part. I mean, I think that's what made it stand out so much is that he played a really good fucking Native in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the stereotypes, he played the stereotype perfectly, and it was it's very hard to hate this movie even though in those stereotypes it's just a part of my childhood.
No, I'm with you. And R.I.P. Sonny Landham once again. When he passed away in 2017, Arnold went and sent out a tweet. Sonny Landham was such a joy to work with on Predator. So talented, so fun to be around. We'll miss him. My thoughts are with his family. And Sonny, despite him having the bodyguard, I mean, you could say there were no incidents on set because he had a bodyguard, but there was no issues. The director, I don't know where that came from. Sonny was notorious for having a mean streak. He was notorious for having a temper problem. But the director, John McTiernan, had nothing but positive things to say about him. Joel Silver had nothing but positive things to say about him. Really, he was early to the game. I think he had a lot of things. I think he just peaked at the right time. I think being a big persona in personality and in stature benefited him. I don't think someone like my size, that's, regular size, smaller in stature, can get acting roles now. But, back then when it was all about testosterone, male bravado, I think he just came in at the right time, to wrap this up, I kind of wanted to tie it into, use this episode as an opportunity to talk about Predator 5. Predator, really every movie after this first one in 1987 is chasing the glory of this first one. Would you agree? Like like none of them ever actually hit this point again.
Yeah, even though like 2 is a very nice attempt. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I only like thinking about it. I haven't watched it since I was probably like 12 or 15. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I have to go back and rewatch it and see how I feel about it now. But I mean, we rewatched this one, and it just was like I went straight back to my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was laughing and giggling, and I literally giggled like it just.
You just giddy in anticipation because you know what's going to happen next, and I feel like the only one that I am okay with as like a standalone movie, I'm like, oh, that was good, was AVP, the first one.
Oh yeah, that I rewatched that. I love that movie.
If I were to rank them, I would say Predator, this one 87, and then AVP, and then probably Predator 2, and then The Predator, The Predators, and then I would put Requiem, AVP Requiem, dead last.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the most recent one. I think
the one with Adrian Brody.
No, because there was another one that came out, Predators with an S.
Oh, yeah. So I haven't seen that one. Like I heard. Oh, yes. So I refused to watch that one because I heard it was bad. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, like I said, you said it. They're just chasing the glory of the first one.
So I mean, so that was the 4th installment. The 5th one is supposed to be set pre-colonial times, and it's supposed to be really First Nations. So in the article, every article I've read, they say First Nations, and the first thing I think is Canada because they say First Nations. But I read in an article, thanks to a listener, went and pointed this out for me, is they're supposed to be Comanche or Apache, and with all the natives that you can choose from, the ones that jump out at you as warriors as like the Apaches, I mean, that's just there was that's just the first thing you think of when you think of like stereotypical, like on the nose, who were the biggest warriors. I'm sure there's some native historian that can tell me that, well, actually, Ian, the Lakotas were the greatest warriors, or actually, the Pequots were the greatest warriors. I'm just saying, from our limited knowledge of like media and film and what's portrayed, like the Apaches, because of Geronimo, is like the notorious for being badasses. So they got that going for it. And I think it's just, imagine a Predator movie with more Sonny Landhams. Like, I think that'd be pretty cool, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? You think they'll miss on it? You think it'll be okay?
It's tough because we don't have a young Wes Studi. We don't have a young Sonny. We don't have our, I guess what we grew up with, your warrior type native actors. It'd be interesting who they get. But I mean,
I feel like they're gonna cast based on stature. Like Martin Sensheimer, he was in Magnificent Seven, the most recent one. I think that he could do it justice.
Yeah,
you definitely would have to get someone that's like jacked. Maybe not jacked, but at least like very fit looking. I think I'm a little worried because for some reason, when it comes to comedy and action, you almost have like the guardrails are almost extended of like what is acceptable in terms of like stereotypes. I mean, we said it. This whole movie is an exemplification of that. In that we recognize the negative stereotypes, we recognize that this perpetuates a lot of things about natives. But as a native person, you're just like, God damn it, it's freaking pretty freaking cool, you know. Despite all that,
Well, and like I said, how I kind of made the connection with Predator being a different, an alien species of native,
mhm.
seeing two different planets natives like going at it, but pre-colonial natives when it's like we were more in touch with the land, we were more into warfare and seeing more of that side of it, the actual guerrilla fighting of it and using the land to their advantage. I mean, is it going to be something that happens here in the US, which it sounds like?
You know what I would like to see is if it's back then, I just hope they don't like dumb everything down to English, you know?
Yeah, it'd be nice if they keep the native language
That
while
would
they're
be so
communicating.
cool. I mean, just like in Last of the Mohicans, while they did speak their own languages, they weren't actually speaking the languages they were claiming to speak. They weren't speaking Mohican in the movie. They were speaking Cherokee and Lakota. But I even that would be acceptable to me. You know, just have something in there where it's like true to the times.
Yeah.
I'm worried that they, it'd be great if someone like Jeff Barnaby, who directed Blood Quantum, would take Predator 5, that they would give him the rights to this movie and just be like, bro, just run with it. And then he could, get people. Your comment about actors, like not having them, there's so many great native actors out there, but to your point, we just don't know about them right now. Like Martin Sensheimer, Kiowa Gordon, they got a handful of them that really jump out at you. But really there's not too many, and that are on like the major motion picture level. I think we give it enough time, they'll get there for sure. Yeah, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with, movies like Predator 5. Even though I have a feeling it's not going to be good. I have a feeling they're really going to lean into the hunter thing. I know there's going to be a part in the movie where the Predator is going to lose his technology, and then we're ultimately going to win because we just are connected to the land. We can feel it in the wind more than this hunter.
So that brings me to another thing, because I remember I told you I was reading about Sonny Landham, his character Billy, and the Wikipedia part of it. But there was supposed to be something that they added, which was a part of the movie, which was supposed to go back to when he was a kid. And when he was a kid, there was supposed to be kind of like I don't want to say like a ceremony, but it was supposed to have like, the background of like natives ceremony and him talking to his grandma. And his grandma was talking about how there used to be predators that they used to come and fight them.
Interesting.
So,
well, they brought that up in this movie. We didn't cover it in the plot review, but Anna, the Hispanic girl, she did say that when it gets hot like this, we used to have bodies that show up like that. She wasn't surprised. So we're led to believe that this isn't the first time that predators came to Earth. So that precedent has been set. So what you're saying, I like that.
Yeah, so it says Billy was half Sioux Indian, half Italian descent. It was from his native people that he learned exemplary tracking skills, and that when he was an infant, his people would tell stories of how a predator had once hunted their forefathers. And although Billy was too young to remember these tales, like that was supposed to kind of bring in, I guess, how he got his traits and his skills, and why there's this sort of connection where he felt he had to fight Predator one-on-one type of thing.
What if the twin monster slayers fought Predator? Dude, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Down giants.
Yeah,
I mean, you could look into some of the stories. Maybe there is a predator that is described in some way.
It's got to be something. That's pretty crazy. I'm looking forward to it. When it comes to sci-fi action, we really allow a lot of things to just go by. Like Night Wolf in Mortal Kombat. We all were Night Wolf, every chance we got. Once I think in Mortal Kombat 3 that finally debuted, just because it's cool. You cling on to anything that's representation and you love it. I think that's like a negative thing of just like there's so few cool things like this for Indian country, for natives, that you see something like this and you're like, oh, yeah, fuck it, I'll take it, you know.
Yeah.
But in this case, I feel like because it's Predator, it's just like there's only one Predator, there's only one Arnold Schwarzenegger. We were represented on screen with Arnold, with Predator. Like you can't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a big thing, like just those little things that we could hold on as kids, like the big screen. I mean, even when you talk about the Billy being a tracker, I mean, even that Chris Pratt in Jurassic Park when he's like, I was in the Navy, I wasn't Navajo. You know, even that little line, like it just,
yeah,
like,
it's a great pull. Great pull. I forgot about that line.
Like, oh, he said he Navajo, and like everyone, like all the, you could just know we're all crack because they all cheered. And
yeah, we definitely like woo in the theater. It's just like holy crap, you know. Yeah, our representation in the mainstream is so infrequent that we'll take it. You know, Wind Talkers, I talk about that movie. I did an episode on that earlier. It's not a good movie. You watch it again, but man, when you saw it, it's like you would have, if you were in that theater when it premiered, you would have thought we were watching the Avengers movies. The amount of like cheering and like hollering from Native people, from Navajos, it was just like, man, we love it. You know, I don't care if it's not a good movie. Nicolas Cage is on screen. There's Adam Beach. Navajo is being spoken for the first time. And I think we're going to do that with Predator 5.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. I mean, there's that small little part of me that's down. It's going to just be a fucking bust. But at the same time, like it's natives against Predator. It's something new. Something. Oh, man, it's exciting just thinking about it.
I agree with you. Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. I think we've said everything that needed to be said about Predator. My closing review that I always give is, will I show this to my son? Of course, I'm going to show this to my son. You know, Chris, you know my son. He's going to unfortunately be raised by Predator, Terminator 2, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Karate Kid, Back to the Future, you know, 1 and 2. And Rocky 1 through 4, 3 Ninjas movies, you know, the list goes on. That kid's gonna have like a trashy, unnecessary amount of knowledge of like late 80s, early 90s movies.
He's gonna have all these saying all these one-liners that all these kids have nothing about.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And all right, everybody.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. It was a lot of fun, man.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to bring you back for another one, man. All right, everybody. Talk to you later.